I just want to thank the Dean for the introduction, and I just want to thank all of you for coming, because I know people are busy with their lives, there are exams going on and many things, but you have been thoughtful to just come and be with us tonight. I've got 25 minutes to speak. What I'm going to do is I want you to know me better. I'm not going to be academic. I'm just going to tell a story about me. And later on, I'm going to take you into my work. I started with young girls in Zimbabwe. And then I see we have got powerful people here with knowledge and skills. So just wait until I start begging for help. I'm going to do that. I was born in a family of 6 children, and I happened to be the second born. So they gave me a name in Shona. It's called Hashiperi. It means something that will never come to an end. So like anyone else, I grew up just wondering, what is it that doesn't come to an end? My grandmother, my mother's mother, came from a family with 4 sets of twins. But it was a taboo to have twins, so they killed all 8 children. She was the only survivor around 1900. And my stepmother got married, and she repeated the same taboo. She had 4 sets of twins herself. So she became a curse of the village. And I begin to take you to taboos that get women's lives in danger, harmful practices that we have in our African communities that people may overlook, but that can sweep a whole generation of women. My grandmother was persecuted. Worse still, she lost her first husband. And as an African woman who remarried and got pregnant before 1 year, you are supposed to mourn your husband for 1 year with no sex, with nothing. But she defied that order, and she got her twins, my mother and her twin sister. So those girls were a taboo again. She suffered in a village just for getting pregnant. My mother had no choice but to leave a village where she was constantly persecuted, where she was constantly accused. If rain doesn't come, they pointed to the twins. When anything went wrong in a community, even if it was not their fault, the twins were always the ones who caused everything terrible. So my mother had no choice but to leave a village at age 16. She was going into the wilderness. She was going virtually nowhere. She went into the hands of my father. She got married, not out of choice, but out of poverty. Who can take you, as long as there is a roof over your head, you can accept any situation. My mother got into a marriage when she was barely 16 years. Another taboo that followed her, 2 of the first babies died on their way, and they accused her of being a witch, a woman who eats her own children. I just want you to see from my grandmother how the myths, how the superstitions, how the accusations are developing just on women. Later on, she gave birth through cesarean section. Another taboo, how can a woman give birth through the stomach? She's supposed to do the right thing. The right thing and the norm is not what they think is not norm to another human being. So my mother suffered from my father's side. But what pained me as a little girl at age 6 was to see a woman like my mother being beaten, held by the neck, be beaten by a belt, As a little girl, I questioned why it happens in the home, because home is a place that you are supposed to come and you feel you are protected. But if home is a place where you are persecuted, I did not want to see my mother cry. And actually, she was not the only one in the neighborhood. It had become norm for people to circle a woman on a payday like Friday. A man gets into the ring, starts beating the woman, and everybody in the ring cheers the man and jeers the woman. That also made me a rebel of patriarchy at a very young age. I just felt, and I told my mother more openly, that report to the police. So I think this is when I started fighting for justice, to just say to my mother, report. There must be someone somewhere who can come to your rescue when you report something going on. But I recall from my mother, she put this index finger right on my mouth. I was a talkative child. She said to me, shh, we don't say such things in public. We don't wash dirty linen in public. But what if the dirty linen is stinking and everyone can see it? I got angry. I became a rebel. I wanted my mother to say it. I wanted her to cry out for help. I also wanted her to know if you cry out for help and you say your story, people can actually hear you. She didn't. On 27 January 1981, this is what I learned when I was in class. And I'm taking it from my biography. As I stood up, she pulled me, and that was my teacher, by the hand and tried to bring me closer to her chest. I could tell because she did not have any black patches on her skin. She then led me out of the classroom, and I was surprised to see my uncle standing outside the door. Tears streamed down his face. My Hakuchina, he sobbed, your mother is no more. I had heard she's no more many times before, but could not at that age understand what it really meant. His euphemism in Shona did not ring a bell. Death was such a sacred word. Many people were scared to even say it, and it was a taboo to mention to a child. In fact, some people believed that when someone died, it suddenly created a curse. My mother was no more. Today I was not focusing on my uncle. His voice shook as he kept repeating, my Hakuchina, during the half-hour walk to our house. This was the first time I had ever seen a man cry, yet I still did not know what was happening. No more means you can't see that person again. And it means permanent loss, and it means forever. It meant I had no mother. It meant I was no more a daughter. It meant motherhood fulfill no more her duties, no more. It meant a long journey ahead. As we neared home, I saw a lot of activity around our house, many people going back and forth. Mother is no more. I started being a mother at age 9. I was the one who was a mother to 6 siblings. My mother left and she died together with a baby because on the night she was beaten, she bled from the mouth and from the nose, and she waved her hand to me to say, look after the children. I had to look after the children. And we were not sure where we were supposed to go. We were not sure who to talk to. There was no shelter, there was no police, there was no hospital, even to go to anyone to knock on the door to say, I am no more a daughter, I am the mother. The journey that was ahead of me was a long journey. This is where I developed myself into an activist. You don't start activism when you are 50. or when you are 30, like what I'm seeing. You start it when you are a little girl. You are presented with a real challenge where you are a mother. A baby needs to feed. A baby needs to be on your back. You need to be in school. A mother, a student, a sister, you need to stretch yourself to everybody. That's what I became. Self-coached, self-trained, self-empowered to be the activist. So the next days to come, we were place to place, and just staying homeless, just staying in places where people could beat you at the slightest provocation taught me justice was not something you get on a silver plate. Just watching, even in families where I went to as an orphaned child, people dishing meals and they eat and call you to wash the dishes. That was not easy. Justice is perpetrated in simplest ways in our own homes. It's not perpetrated up there, right in our own homes. And this is where I want to take everybody, the stories in our own homes. We often take them for granted, but they affect the rest of our lives. The next thing that happened is that one of the children my mother left died, he drowned. And as you can see, I developed to be attached to my brothers, not as a sister, but as a mother. My stepmother, the other woman my father married, beat her at 6 a.m. At 12 noon, he was actually hugging her baby. At around 4 p.m., he drowned and he died. What a tragedy. That struck me again. And you know, everybody to come to a funeral, to ask for the mother for the boy, and everybody to point to me as a 12-year-old girl to say, that's the mother seated over there. Sometimes when you come to be an activist, you don't go into a class to be taught, you teach yourself. I learned to be a mother morning. I learned to be a sister morning. Mine was always a double tragedy. Whereas people could talk about one thing happening to them, I was always talking about something happening to me as a sister and also as a mother. It became a painful journey. Next, I had to actually fight for myself. In a country with 90% unemployment, with women nowhere near a classroom or education, I told myself one statement: I had the brains but no money. I knew I was an intelligent girl. I wanted to be someone some people would call with a title. That much I guaranteed myself. And even as I will go to explain what I created out of Girl Child Network, it was just that self-determination that told me the brains are there even if I am poverty-stricken. So I went to a very good girls' school for an entrance test. I had run after a bus to that entrance test from 3 a.m. after my stepmother blocked me from going into the entrance test. So there was only one bus, and it takes us to another situation. In Africa, you are presented with only one option. You don't have 2 schools in your neighborhood, you have one. You don't have 2 buses going to the entrance test, you have one bus. If you miss one bus, you miss the rest of your life. So that's how we were trained. You have to catch one bus. So in the middle of the town, the bus was almost taking off, and that was my life symbolically taking off. I ran after the bus. I cried for the bus to stop, and just by the robot, it stopped. But market women, you know, those big women in Africa who sell tomatoes and onions, had threatened the driver they will stone the bus with tomatoes. Again, another lesson in my activism, my being into that rich girls' bus was not made possible by rich people seated in posh offices. Market poor women by the roadside. I learned one humble thing. If ever I am to be successful, I will stand for the poor by the roadside. I will never stand inside and call that they are poor people. I got into the bus and a girl seated next to me could see I was dirty and everything, and she gave me a paper and a pen. Those two things were supposed to help me write an exam. So in my own personal development, I did not use $1 million donor funding. I used a paper and a pen. Most probably for 10 cents or things we can throw away here and take for granted. I got to be announced as one of the top girls. Everybody looked at me in shock to say, which bet are you talking about? But I said, I want to rise. I want people to know, even if you are poor but you've got the brains, you can make a breakthrough. I turned up at that school with nothing but my brains. I said to the Roman Catholic nuns, allow me in the school. What I can only guarantee as payment is I will look after other girls. Please, sister, allow me. Of course, I understand they were running the school as a business, not a charity. As a 12-year-old girl, I was very brilliant to know every mathematics to do with money. I insisted. That started my advocacy. I didn't go to school to advocate for myself. I had to walk distances to say the brains are here, but the pocket is empty. They allowed me in the school, provided I cleaned 1/3 of this complex during holidays. You know, sometimes we think bacteria kills. I cleaned the toilets with no gloves. No bacteria killed me. I killed all bacteria. When you are poverty-stricken, you are the one who kills bacteria. It doesn't kill you at all. That's what I learned, at least from resilience. I completed school. I went to university. I gained my 2 university degree. I became someone who is degreed. Even when they put a cap, I went back to my neighborhood where all girls had been married at 15 years. I said to myself, with your brain, you can do anything. I started a girls' club in a class, and I told girls, enough of the poverty. In this high-density suburb, I rose. I stood up. I became outstanding. I'm not coming here with a logical framework that is massive and huge. I'm just coming here to say, from the rubbles, you can sit on a higher table. So let's go, girls. Every door I would knock. 10 girls came, 50 girls came, 100 girls came, 2,000 girls. They multiplied up until there were 70,000 girls who all flooded the education system for education. Rural girls, when you go to rural areas of Zimbabwe, the school is the tree. The tree you sit under, there is no teacher, there is no book. But those girls sat under a tree, rain and a storm could hit them. But because they knew education is what brought Betty here, one by one they devised the method to be educated. As I speak today, thousands of my girls are now lawyers. They are doctors. They are big women. That's why when you saw me coming on stage, I came with my empowerment handbag. Empowerment handbag is what I am working with African girls. And as you can see, you have got the independence to open your own empowerment handbag and take whatever shows that you have achieved. You can look after yourself. It's not about dependence. I always go back to the girls to say, see, who is registered with the bank? Betty Makoni. My life is automatic. Now I go to an ATM and it will say, good morning, Betty. How much do you need? I don't manually force men to give me money. This is what I'm coming to tell you, girls. Empowerment handbag, in it, there is your car key. When things are not working, drive your car and go. Have your house key. When things are not going on, open your door and close it and allow whoever you want. When we are talking about poverty in Africa, and when I come to the north, I always have a question for my girls and fellow African women. If they could build a school, what's stopping us from building a school? Why can't we learn? Why can't we see it's possible to come up with a prestigious center like this one where we can share our history, when we can inspire each other and take our children through learning? When I come here to the north, I am in search of inspiration. Inspiration that tells us that boys and girls are both human beings. Let's allow every child in school. Imagine in Africa, as I'm speaking right now, instead of buying a ballpoint for a child to go to school, people are busy buying knives and razor blades to cut genital organs of children. How naive. Imagine your whole delicate part being cut off because of the mentality, the thinking. And you know, there is no African Union, there is no United Nations, there is no European Union. When they cut your delicate part, you have to fight on your own, and men who could not fight died. We have got invisible girls who perished. We have got men who succumbed to disease because of the mindset. The mindset that our children cannot move from those brothels, from those bedrooms into classrooms and be educated. Now I am a global advocate for girls. I want the world to hear me. Let's declare a state of emergency on the lives of girls. Just like what we do with a flood or a tsunami. When people cut your delicate parts, it's almost an atomic bomb right on your little body. It's a war against a little child who cannot talk about themselves. They say 10 million go through female genital mutilation. In my country, 8,000 girls are in bedroom every year instead of a classroom. It's really, really a state of emergency. So coming to you, that's the donation I'm looking for. Donate your voice. Stand and help us speak. There are some things that are not acceptable. I know I'm not the only one making a speech for the first time. I know many people have spoken, but for how long can we leave little girls to perish? How long can we let older men, put their whole desire, sexual desire for that matter, on little girls who are defenseless? My coming to you is to appeal to you. Whatever role and in whatever capacity you are in, help us to declare a state of emergency. In Africa, I know it's not like a flood that sweeps every people, but systematically our women are perishing when they are still little girls. It's systematically, it's allowed, it's state-sponsored. We need to rescue life. Today, I'm also appealing to you, donate knowledge. Knowledge that I have seen here at President Clinton's institution has moved me beyond words. I'm saying, how did they do this? I'm asking myself a million questions. How does one put on a sofa here? How does one put on a computer? How do they put a curtain? Because in my country, we have more bases where people are fighting more than building. I'm just asking, donate your knowledge to Africa. Send your students to our centers. Teach us. Many girls are willing even to get a corner of the certificate that you have here, just to say, I know at least someone came to tell me. I know a lot of people would ask me, Betty, how many checks can we write tonight? Where can we donate? If you give a girl in Africa a fish, she will eat it. But if you give her a fishing rod, she will learn to go to the river and fish. In Africa, we don't need to continuously eat fish that other people worked on. We need to think and use knowledge to develop our continent. I've also come to you to say, donate your students. We really need them in Africa. Whatever work they can do to make girls in our continent know a village is smaller than the world. We want every girl to know beyond a small village where they are being raped, there is a whole world that they can conquer, like what my other girls have done. We want the inspiration of all the young women I'm seeing here to go right on the ground and inspire. It's not like when I ran after the bus, I had a mother to tell me to run after the bus. Girls are not born victims, they are victorious. The fact that you can survive when a man rapes you and pushes you into a bedroom really shows that you can do even much more. So today, I've not come to appeal for donations, because for this institution to be this big and good, you did not get donations, you also got knowledge. It's the knowledge that we need as a donation, and that's what I've come to appeal for. Knowledge and more knowledge. Let's talk about knowledge. Let's dig it. Let's sit on it, let's eat it, let's dream it, let's dance it, let's sing it. Knowledge and more knowledge in our African people and African girls. That's what I've come to ask you for. Then finally, I just want to thank my friend there. She traveled almost 4 hours to be here. She saw me just on a television with her daughter. They want to start an initiative in Missouri, just like we did in Zimbabwe. Very much appreciated. Many women, even in the United States, we have actually started replicating our model. Who knew a girl who was running after a bus like myself would board a plane and stand here? And then people would write, "Welcome, Betty." People were supposed to say, "Bye-bye, Betty," when I was poor. I'm happy it's very possible to transform from a victim into a victor. No one was born a victim. We are all victors. And then to all your lives, I say, keep inspiring people. Donate all the knowledge that you have. Push us to realize that it's not normal to not to have a school. And I know President Clinton is not here, and even the woman I admire most, Hillary Clinton, is not here, but I just want to appreciate all the work they've done in Africa through the Clinton initiative. This is what we want to see, a leader who goes beyond himself to say, I can touch lives in Africa. Some of our leaders, and you know them by names, they took countries, like in my case, when I was 9 years, our president was there. I'm 41, he's there. The rest of the story I leave you to tell in our hearts. We need leadership in the world to take all the kids out of poverty. On that note, I want to say, no one was born a victim. We are all victorious. And a good night to you all.
Thank you, Betty, for that. We do have time for some questions. If you raise your hand, we'll get a microphone to you. Right here.
Snuck up on me. Despite the hours and hours that we have talked over the past couple of years, there are a couple of things that I haven't ever had a chance to ask you. 2 years ago, I am so sorry. 2 years ago, a friend and I victorious, right? We took a leap of faith and decided to take our 12-year-old daughters to go see Tapestries of Hope, which focuses quite a bit on the virgin myth that we haven't touched on much this evening. My question is, what age do you feel is the youngest? What age do you feel children need to be? Our decision was at 12, which she's 14 now. At 12, if she didn't know these things occurred, she needed to, and so did her friend. And the other question I have is that in all the people that you prepare to train, and as you are training my daughter, starting your sessions today, how do you prepare them to deal with the negativity that is meant to slander you, that people will find out there, whether it is knowing that it is invalid? How do you prepare them for that?
You want to do them one at a time? Do you want to?
I think the first thing on the film that Jana is talking about, there is a 74-minute film that students here can also take and watch. It's called Tapestries of Hope, where I walk the journey to show you some of the myths like virgin skewer AIDS that are destroying children. So you can watch it. It's also for free on HBO. I think it's a television network here in America. I'm not quite sure. But on her questions, I just want to say children should know, most probably from age 5. They say if you teach a child who is under 7 years, they are mostly likely to pick it up. So there are child-friendly manuals that we have developed. Good touch, bad touch, children should know. What I'm beginning to see is by the time they reach 12 years, they might have been abused already, and at that age, it's very difficult to be bold enough to speak out. And then what I suggest is let's look after our children even with a motherly language, even when they are 2. Learn to talk to a body, learn to talk to a hand, so that if she senses something, because I want to be very graphic and say some men are actually using their tongues to suck baby genital parts. Some men actually ejaculate on baby genital parts. So sometimes if you use body language to talk to your child about good touch when she's a baby, she will know what's gentle. And all of a sudden, if she's raped, she can communicate through crying. She can communicate through any other ways that baby can communicate with. So even a little baby, talk to them through good touch. Let them know. And then the other issue about being persecuted, the backlash that I personally face, I just want the world to know that a lot of dictatorship are now turning to the internet. You know, internet, Google, where they can put a lot of damaging articles about you. It is happening to me even right now as I'm speaking to you. This is just to stop the work. If I left Zimbabwe to go into self-exile, they know they can reach to all of you through internet because they know you use it. So be very careful when you are dealing with women, human rights defenders who speak out like us. We are also targeted in our own way that is sophisticated. You may not pick it easily on the internet, but those who are kind enough to reach to us to say, what is it that is going on. And then for me, I tried very much to come up with an autobiography. This is my official story. And I think most of the people, I'm not going to be supported by the whole world and everyone, but some people who choose to support me are also reading. It's 600 pages. And as you can see, some people write you 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, but I am not a story of 1 paragraph. This is my story. Look how big it is. With all illustrations, everything I exposed it, I have nothing to hide. So it's here. Let's hope some people will read it, students will analyze it, because it can provide a platform for you to start analyzing beyond an individual or an institution. You can all be all-encompassing. So my story is all here. And let's hope $2, you can download it, put it on your computer. Whenever you want a chapter about me, there are 60 chapters. You can always read it. We have done that because we don't own the internet, where most people are using social media. Even when I was nominated as a CNN hero. Out of 9,000 applications, we defied everything that was happening, and it serves a purpose, because most probably that's how this institution has invited me to share my story, and platforms like this where I share my story can help a lot in reaching out. So that's how far I am trying to use every platform to talk to the people who want to help.
Shamim.
Good evening, Betty. Thank you so much. I have a friend from Zimbabwe, but I've forgotten all the Shona she's taught me so far. I'm a former student of the Clinton School, and I'm originally from Kenya, and I'm a Kenyan. So I have 2 questions. One is to take on your challenge for Kenyans who are here in the US or abroad in the diaspora, what we can do back home and in the ground, even if we're working for big institutions. And so I am a strong believer that we need to be the voices in the UNs and the EUs and all these organizations that do the work back home and have that voice, but how do we also remain authentic and connected so that we're not so much in meetings and boardrooms and forget what's really going on in the ground? And the second question is, I started an initiative for a high school I attended for girls in Kenya, where I sell keychains for $5, sorry, for scholarships. And that was because when I came to the US, I had scholarships. I had a full scholarship to the Clinton School, but I realized that other girls in my high school, when their parents couldn't afford it, you know, they would drop out, and that would be the story. It's been easier for me to fundraise in the US, but it's been harder to get other Kenyans who went to the school and other Kenyans just period to say, let's, you know, come back and support the schools we went to. And so from your perspective, as much as you would take on the challenge of, you know, being able to be that voice and be active in our own special way, how do we deal with it when our own selves don't know what scholarships look like, don't know what those networks look like because we didn't have them? And how do you create it and build that sisterhood in country so that we're not always depending on outside sources to give us funding?
When I'm coming to US people, I think you are the most burdened with donations in the world, because I was looking at the donations US people made, 291 billion last year, and 73% of that donation came from individuals. And I was just saying to myself, why Americans only? Why are they the only ones who give back to us and to everyone else? I still have a question I'm still asking, but I'm going to take the challenge back to us, my dear sister, and say, back home, if we have got millionaires in Kenya, and I know them, Kenya is very close to me as well, and I've got a lot of friends in UK who are from Kenya. I'm trying to think how first we can create scholarships in our community. How much is needed? Our national budgets, do they become sensitive to the fact that education is a right? We need to hold our governments also accountable. We need also to hold some parents who are not responsible accountable. There is so much work around behavior change that we need to foster back in communities to get. We may get US donating scholarships, whatever, but as long as we don't have a long-term plan, even with the girls, we'll lose them. A lot of people don't believe me when I say, even from my basket of vegetables, it brought a graduate like me. Even working at a school, not in America, but back home, is what brought me here today. So I'm just thinking of innovative strategies to bring the girls and parents and boys, everyone together, and start focusing and thinking. Local solutions to local problems. And also we can then emulate some of the good practices we see in the US to say, oh, this is how they create a scholarship. Sometimes you might find out here they create a scholarship through a family foundation. A rich millionaire in Africa can be sensitized to create a small foundation, because sometimes even for 200 girls, you only need 1,000 US to keep them in school. The monies we are talking about are not as big as people might want to understand out there. So I'm just thinking about being innovative about local resources first. And the last thing we want to see are people from America flying all the way to Kenya to build a school. We can mold bricks, we can we not? We can make glass in Africa, am I lying? Glass, like that window. We can, wood we have. So some things we want to begin to think what we have. And last resort, we come here. But I just want to appreciate you for your big effort in going back to your community, to that one school. Why is it that very innovative? Because if we have some of us who have done well going back to each school, we can fill up villages. It's not like all the villages we take donors to don't have local donors. Let's not fool people around. Let's not lie. We have got richest people who are somewhere who belong to the village. We have simply neglected it. So let's start an innovative program to drive people back to their villages, back to supporting education. And many Africans in the diaspora, if we put all our funds together, we can create an Africa Diaspora Education Fund. Where are we spending most of our money? Beer, women, and other things that put our lives in danger. So we must come to that level on our own to do frank speaking. We have to be frank to each other on creating innovative family diaspora foundation fundings that can be invested. We get interest out of it. We get even to reinvest it. It goes on. There is a way American people do it, and that's why I asked for knowledge today. I did not ask for donations. How do you make an investment fund? How much is needed? That's the information I'm looking for, so that we are not constantly on the begging plate. My book, Never Again, says dignified beggar. We are in suits. We are in beautiful clothing, but we are like a woman on the streets constantly begging. Can we not invest a global fund and give back to our villages? We can. But again, thank you for the initiative to help other girls.
Betty, thank you so much for sharing your story.